One of the most important aspects of this year CES show was the introduction of the new NVIDIA GPUs, RTX 5000 series. While AMD didn't even make a mention in its keynote about its upcoming GPUs, we don't know why they did that. Jensen made a nice presentation about the features and the performance improvements of the new RTX 5000 series. Jensen, with his signing jacket, told us that the 5070 will offer performance equivalent to the 4090. He didn't exactly lie, but he hid part of the truth. What is going on here, you might wonder. Okay guys, if you take a look at the performance charts, NVIDIA was kind enough to show us a game, how a game like Far Cry 6, which doesn't support DLSS, will do in the new RTX 5090. The performance difference, guys, with the 4090, it's very low. Normally, when a new GPU is released, especially after 2 years, you expect it to have at least double the performance. This is the case if DLSS 4 is enabled, multi-frame generation, but clearly this is not the case when DLSS is completely absent. And in games like Far Cry 6, this is what you see here. The performance improvement is very, very small. It is not something that you would expect from the newest generation GPU, which took 2 years or more to develop. And I want to bring you, while some other YouTubers or reviewers tell you, hey, okay, multi-frame generation is not good, it's bad, I want pure raster performance improvement, I don't want to just see an AI algorithm generating more frames. I have my own opinion about why this happened. Let's take it from pure physics, okay? You have a cable, one cable, transferring the necessary power to the GPU. This cable, 12 volt 2x6, can handle up to 660 watt, but they have restricted that to 600 watt. I don't want to talk for amps because usually you use amperes for cables because it will confuse most of you, so I will talk with watt. So, you have 600 watt going to the GPU. NVIDIA had to work it out with this 600 watt to make the best out of it. Yes, they could go with double the connectors, but guys, how many PSUs you know that have dual 12 volt 2x6? Only the very, very strong one, above 1500 watt. Clearly, yes, the 5090 is not for everyone, actually for very few people, as it was for the 4090, but having double the connectors and going up to 1200 watt, it will be insane. Second, the PCB of the new GPUs, even the PCB of the 5090, is very small. In my experience, and in general, the smaller the PCB is, the more watt you put to it, thermals go through the roof. There won't be any possible way to cool down such a small PCB, whatever cooling system you use, especially confined into a chassis. My opinion is that there are some physical restrictions, like power consumption, like thermals, which don't make it so easy to increase the pure performance to 200%, to double the performance as we all expected. So either NVIDIA's engineers got lazy and say, hey, okay, from the moment we can do it through AI, through software, why don't you utilize software and provide 3 frames more and say, okay, this is a 200% increase in performance. And we don't have any problem with power consumption, we don't have any problem with the thermals of the new GPUs, and job done. Another major problem is that you have to convince the programmers, the coders that actually make the games to utilize DLSS 4. And still, many of you say, okay, I don't want an AI creating the game for me, I want pure performance. To use a car analogy, I love using cars for my examples. It's like having a car, a pure muscle car with a 5000cc engine and producing 500 horsepower or whatever. And on the other hand, having a car, 1500 only cc, but with double turbo installed and producing the same horsepower. The horsepower might be equal in numbers, but it is not the same feeling that you have. The feeling is completely different. And some of you guys that have actually driven a car with a large engine and a car with a turbo engine, you can feel the difference between these two. I want to check the new NVIDIA GPUs and see if actually they are more efficient than the previous generation. Given the software solution that they use, this will heavily depend on the game, of course, because when we measure the efficiency, what we say? We say, okay, how many frames the card generates and how many watts, how much power it requires to generate these frames. Apparently, with DLSS 4 enabled, these cards will be highly efficient, but not all gamers want frame generation. That's the problem that NVIDIA will have to process. And now, if NVIDIA has its ways with software houses and enforces all of them, or most of them at least, to utilize frame generation, okay, this will end good for NVIDIA. But I cannot feel satisfied when I see an older title or a title that doesn't utilize DLSS 4 for its own reasons, having so small difference in performance between the RTX 4090 and the 5090. And another thing that I want to note here about the 5090, if you take a close look at the specifications, you will see that the boost clocks are notably lower than the boost clocks of the 4090. Why this happened? For the NVIDIA to remain below the 600 watt maximum power. The higher the clocks, the higher the power consumption. So NVIDIA had to make a trade-off there, and they said, okay, we will lower the clocks to keep the card in line with the 600 watt maximum power that the PCI SIG says. This clearly shows that we're very, very close to maximizing actually the potential of the 12 volt 2x6. And either a new connector at some point must be out, or just use two of these connectors. Also, I went to Asus booth and I took a look at the new AMD GPUs there. It was so foolish, guys, to see three, not two, three PCI 6+2 pin on the card. Okay, in AMD, I think this is ridiculous now. Just use the damn 12 volt 2x6. I don't know what you guys, you wrote some comments that no, it's not safe, it's a fire hazard and all this shit. Okay, I have in my lab, I'm working in my lab more than 2 years now. These connectors, I never ever had a problem, and believe me, we pushed them above 1000 watt. Nothing happened. Previous connector, 12 volt HPWR, if you didn't connect it properly, you could have issues. But the new connector is safe, and it's time for the technology to move on. Else, we'll be left with 6's technology, yeah, because it was reliable. That's the case. Anyway, that's what I wanted to mention about the new NVIDIA GPUs. If you have any comments, leave them, and subscribe, please. Bye-bye.